One of the great exercises that you can do is to take each of these 7, planning, organizing, recruiting, delegating, supervising, reporting, and measuring, and give yourself a grade of 1 to 10 on how good you are in that area, with 1 being should 1 be the best or the worst? The best. And then, that's right, 1 to 10. And give yourself a grade of 1 to 10, and wherever you give yourself a low grade, you will find that that's the major problem you have in your work. That's the major problem you have in getting results. So it's always a good idea to give yourself an honest grade, and you don't have to tell anybody what your grade is. But in terms of planning, would you give yourself a grade of 1 to 10? Are you really excellent at planning, or you need a little work? But if you do, it's okay, because it's simply a learnable skill. Are you really good at recruiting people, or do you need to become better at recruiting, and so on? Now, our timing is such that because you took so long for the break and so long for lunch, that we're going to run a little bit past. We're actually going to go to about 6 o'clock instead of 5:15 or 5:45. Is that okay? Say yes. Remember all that famous traffic in the streets of Dar es Salaam? Well, it'll all be gone when you leave, so it's no problem. So when you get home, you can't say, well, honey, I was late because of the traffic, because there won't be any when you head for home. I went out to see a very wise man on Monday night in Lagos, and the traffic was so terrible it took 3.5 hours of traffic to get to his home. When we came back an hour later, it took 30 minutes to get back to the hotel. 3.5 hours one direction because it was the height of traffic, and 30 minutes coming back. It was quite amazing. And so here are the qualities of a winning team, and I just want to go through these quickly, and I just want you to think of how you can apply some of these ideas to building a winning team. Remember, building a team of people to do the job and get results and make profits is your chief responsibility. If you own the company, of course, it's vital to bring together the right people. If you don't own the company, then one of the most important things you can do for your company is to present it with a good team, is to build a team in your area of responsibility. So we say, here are the qualities based on years of research. I will just summarize them. One is they have clear coaching and leadership. A team, it's clear that someone is the boss. This doesn't mean that someone is arrogant or superior or demanding. It just means it's clear that one person is the boss, that this person makes the decisions. If there's an argument or disagreement, you are the boss. Number 2 is they are committed to excellence. All team leaders are committed to excellence, to winning against competition. Here's an interesting discovery, and people have told me this, is if you are in the right business, you love your product and you use your own product. If you are in the wrong business, you will use the product of your competitors. I tell people, if you have someone in your business who does not use your product and uses your competitor's product, fire them immediately. Because these people are poison to a business. What they're saying is, I don't believe this product is any good. I will pretend to sell it, but I don't believe it's good enough for me to use it. If you would not sell your product to your mother or father or brother or sister or best friend, then it's the wrong product for you. You must always sell something that you love. And then you are committed to winning against competition. Just like a winning sports team, the people on the team and the coach are committed to winning games. You must be committed to winning as well. Now, number 3, the very best teams have open communication. What this means is that everybody can speak freely. You have to speak with courtesy and you have to speak with respect, but you say whatever you're thinking, and this is encouraged. There's a great model where someone comes to the boss and complains about someone else, and that other person comes to the boss and complains about the other person. And they're always coming to the boss and complaining about each other. So what the boss does, calls them both in, sits them down, and says, now I want you to say to this other person what you told me, and I want you to say to this person what you told me. And I'll just sit here and watch. And amazingly what happens is they have no choice. They begin to share their complaints with each other openly, and go back and forth and argue, and finally they resolve it. And they go back to work. And they never come back and talk to the boss again. Because they know if they do, the boss is going to call the other person in, and they're going to have to sit there and tell the other person what they just said. This is how you build open communications. You make it clear that there's no secrets, that everything is open. If anybody has an opinion, everybody is going to know it. No secrets. Number 4, the best teams have an intense focus on developing their people. Developing your people means giving them 2 types of training: on-the-job training and off-the-job training. On the job means that you give them assignments and you give them guidance to do a good job. Everybody wants to do a good job. And the other is off the job, where you actually send them out to get training. You send them to seminars and workshops. In my company, my staff goes to seminars and workshops an average of 3 working days per month. Is half the time I go in, the whole team is out at a seminar. And it's one of the most productive and profitable teams in the entire industry. Some people say we have the best business out of 3,000 businesses like mine in the US. Because why? Because my people are always going to top seminars with the top experts in their business. Does it make a difference? Yes. The companies that spend the most on training are all the highest profit companies. The companies that don't spend money on training are low profit and will soon go out of business because they can't run fast enough from the lion of competition. They become weak gazelles, and they're very quickly picked off by competition who are training their people. IBM became the biggest and most respected company in the world. They also had the biggest training budgets of any company in the world for 50 years. Everybody said, if you went to IBM, you got the best training in the world. And those people went out and got results. At one time, IBM had 80% of the world computer market. And the reason they had 80%, they always charged the highest prices for their computers. The reason they had 80% is because customers said that the best company in the world to deal with was IBM. They had the best customer service in the world. And they were able to dominate the entire world to the tunes of hundreds of billions of dollars. And I worked with IBM for many years, and one of my best friends was a head of training for IBM for 25 years, and he said they never reduced their training budgets. Everybody at IBM was required to take training regularly over and over, or that's the only reason that they would let you go from IBM is if you did not take regular training. Number 5, top teams use selective player assignments. This means that once they've hired people, people are moved into areas where they can perform best. So sometimes you'll hire a person for a certain job, and it'll turn out that they're not very good at that job. Well, the natural tendency is to fire them. But instead, what top companies do is they say, well, what else could you do where you would be even better? And they move them around. Some of the best companies in the world will hire people for attitude and personality, and then teach them whatever skills they need, and then move them around until they find a job where they fit in. And then they become stars. So therefore, it could be that you have people who are not doing a good job, but they're in the wrong position. So what I do is I say, if you could change jobs in this company, what would you really like to do different from what you're doing now? And they say, well, I'd really like to do that. Now, this does not mean that they will be good at that job, but it is a very good indicator. People will always be the best doing something that they enjoy. So work becomes play for them. Number 6, top teams put a heavy emphasis on strategy. Strategy is another word for thinking. They take time to think. They bring together everybody to think about their goals and how they're going to achieve the goals, to think about measures, how they're going to measure it, to think about activities, what they're going to do each day to achieve the goals. So A, they set clear goals and objectives for everyone. Remember the game, Keep That Job? The next time we get together and I ask you, do you want to play Keep That Job, which requires that everybody in your company knows exactly their top 3 jobs, what they're supposed to do, how it's measured, and when it's supposed to be done. Next time we get together, I want you to be able to raise your hand that you'll play the game, because everybody who reports to you knows exactly what they're expected to do. If you don't give your staff clarity in this area, they can never perform. It's like asking them to be successful as a player, but then never telling them where the goal is. So they have to run around kicking the ball, but they don't know where the goal is. Number B is they set clear measures and benchmarks. Our old friend measures. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And C, they develop clear plans of action. They develop clear plans of action, which are checklists for actions that need to be taken to achieve the goal. Remember, top people use lists for every multi-part project. For every project that has several parts, they have a list, and they're always using the list. Now, team building is, we say people at work have two basic needs. The first need, they have a need for autonomy, to stand out and to be respected as individuals. And second of all, they have a need for belonging, to be part of a team. So they say that, that Stephen Covey used to teach this. They have a need for independence, and then dependence, and then interdependence. So they need to be independent and be recognized for themselves because of self-esteem needs and self-image. We all need to have individual respect. But everybody wants to be part of a team. Everybody wants to be part of a larger group. In fact, it's one of the deepest emotional needs that human beings have is to be accepted by the group. Remember I told you that the average person works for the first year to learn their job, and then they level off and they never improve. What they found was they work hard for the first year so that they do not earn the disapproval of their coworkers. So their coworkers don't criticize them for doing a poor job because they want to be accepted. They want to feel part of the team. But once they reach that, they level off and they don't need to improve because now they're accepted. Now their dependency needs are satisfied. But the highest needs of all are interdependence, where we work well with others. Your job is to satisfy both needs, to reward people as individuals and to praise people as a group. Now, the HP stands for Hewlett-Packard. And I worked with Hewlett-Packard some years ago, and it was an interesting experience. I worked with them some years ago as a trainer and as a consultant for managers and leaders. And this was when they were one of the top companies in the world. They're still a very good company, but they have a lot of big problems because they are losing money on every sale. Very clever pricing structure. That was sarcastic, by the way. Yes. A very clever pricing structure where you lose money on every sale, that's kind of a joke. It's okay, you can smile, sir. Not too much, but just a little smile. So the HP model of effectiveness, they said, if you're going to train our people, we want you to understand the training that all our managers have been through. And the training is called the Hewlett-Packard Process of Management. And they call it the POM course, P-O-M. And they said, however, this is a top secret course. It's based on millions of dollars of research into the 5 keys to high-performing teams. And we spent millions of dollars studying our workforce worldwide to find the highest performing teams and to find out the common qualities of these teams. However, you need to know this material, so here's the understanding. They gave me a binder that was twice as big as this. Huge binder, about 200 or 300 pages, that belonged to the top executive who had hired me to work there. It had his name, it had a special number on it, and a code. He said, you can read this binder over the weekend, but you cannot copy it, and you must return it on Monday. And you must promise never to tell anybody what is in this process. Because this is why Hewlett-Packard had gone from an idea in a garage to a $50 billion company. So I said, okay, and they gave it to me, and I spent 16 hours. I sat down all day Saturday and all day Sunday reading and taking notes, because I was so impressed with this process. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I still remember. And then afterwards, I went back to my client, a senior manager, and I said, you know, this material is so good. I would love to be able to teach the basics of this program, 5 parts, to my managers in my other seminars. He said, this is all top secret. It's confidential. I said, what can I do? He said, I like you very much. He said, I will send a letter to the president of Hewlett-Packard and ask him if he will give his permission for you to use the basic ideas. I'm the only trainer in the world who has a letter from the president of Hewlett-Packard giving me personal permission to teach these 5 ideas. And so I've taught them to my friends ever since. And they transform companies. Now, there's about 50 pages of application for each of these 5 points. So we can't go into that, and I was not able to keep notes. But here they are. Number 1 had 5 simple points. The process of management was shared goals and objectives, which is another word for clarity. Everybody knew exactly what the company or the team was trying to achieve, and everybody discussed it and agreed. So shared goals and objectives where everybody was crystal clear. Number 2 is shared values and beliefs. Each of these teams discussed, how do we want to work together? Do we want to work with courtesy, responsibility, punctuality, task completion? And they agreed that these would be the principles that they would all work on. And everybody promised to adhere to the principles. They would say, if you promise to have this done on Thursday at 10 o'clock, part of our values are, I will have it done by 10 o'clock. So everybody agreed on the values and beliefs. The third part was shared plans of action. And shared plans of action is in discussion, each person would discuss and agree what they were going to do and when they were going to do it and how it would be measured, just like we've talked about before. And everybody knew what each other person was doing and how it would be measured and when it was supposed to be done. So they were very open in their discussion. Everybody knew the job of everybody else. Number 4, the manager leads the action. The manager is working and sets an example. The manager goes first. And the special job of the manager in this process was to make sure that everyone else had everything they needed to do their jobs well. And so this was the 4th requirement. And the 5th requirement, and this has become so important, is they continually review their performance. So on a regular basis at every meeting, they would ask the question, how are we doing? How are we doing as a group? Is everybody happy with this team? Does anybody have any questions or concerns of anybody? And everything was open. And then they would look at the projects or products that they were working on. How are these products doing in the marketplace? And they would establish networks of communication to ask customers, are you happy with our product? How could we improve it? What would you like to see differently? And they were able to bring about incredible changes in performance. Sometimes they would cut costs of producing a product by 80% and increase the quality. Sometimes they would increase the sales by 80% with no additional cost. These teams achieved extraordinary results at Hewlett-Packard because of the Big 5. If all you did was this, you'll have the keys to building a great company. Shared goals and objectives, everybody knows. Shared values and beliefs that everybody stands for. Shared plans of action, and everybody knows what everyone else is doing. The leader leads the action and makes sure that everybody has what they need to do their work well, and then continually review. How are we doing? How are we doing in the market? How are we doing amongst ourselves? These are 5 wonderful tools. Team motivation, we say set team goals as well as individual goals. If you want to motivate your team, the team has to have a reason to work together. Now you see the football teams in Brazil, they all have a reason to work together because it's impossible for any one of them to be successful without the other team members. So when they all win, they're all going to get big financial prizes. And so everyone is helping everybody else because there's prizes for everybody if they work together and achieve the goals. So you set team rewards. You make sure that there's rewards for top performance as an individual, but there's also rewards for the team that will be divided up in a certain way. 3, keep everyone informed. There's our friend again. People like to know everything that's going on. Number 4 is recognize team success publicly. In other words, announce successes. this sales team has achieved these goals. Tell everybody in the company is the business department has developed a new product or service or made a new big sale. Make sure everybody in the company knows the good things that are going on so people feel part of a successful company. Encourage team activities. Bring team members together regularly. Now, when I was working with IBM, I was often invited to speak at conferences around the country. And I would go to a conference, and I remember one in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I went to this conference, and it was to announce a new product that they were going to roll out worldwide. And they brought people in from all over Canada and the United States and Europe and Asia. There were about 300 or 400 people there. And of course, they made the product announcements, and they had PowerPoints, and they had demonstrations, and they had the developers explain the product, and then they had the marketing people explain the marketing process. And they shared all this, and then in the evenings they had dinners where they would have entertainment. And then the next evening they took everyone out on a ship in the harbor in Vancouver where they had a dinner and music playing. And I was involved in part of this, but I got a bit curious. And I finally asked one of the senior managers, I said, you know, why do you bring these people from all over the world? You could make all of these announcements at their home office at no expense. You could have product launches in each city. You wouldn't have to bring people from one side of the country to the other and then send people from this to the other side. He said, no. He said, you don't understand. With IBM, we constantly bring people together for any reason we can think of so that they feel that they're part of a big team. They're meeting people from all over the country and all over the world. They're establishing connections. They're networking with people so that everybody in the company feels that they're part of this big organization. And they had some of the highest morale and motivation of any company in the world because they were constantly bringing people together. Now, I want you to imagine a brook, a little stream that runs through the countryside, and there's little stones in the bottom of the brook. And if you pick up these stones, what do you notice? What do they feel like? Well, they're round and smooth. They're round and smooth. Now, why are they round and smooth? Well, they weren't born round and smooth. They broke down over time. The answer is because of the water keeps the stones banging against each other. And they're constantly banging against each other, and all the rough edges get banged off, and the stones become round and smooth. It's the same way when you have regular meetings with your people, and you bring them together, and they talk together, and they share jokes, and they laugh, and so on, and you tell them what's going on. You're bringing the stones together, and eventually they all become smooth, and they work together smoothly like a team. They get incredible results. You know, a team that works together can get 5 times the results of a bunch of people who don't work together. And IBM found, and this made them one of the most profitable companies in the world, the more you bring people together for a good reason, think of a reason, the more you bring them together, the better they work together all over the world, and the better results and lower costs and higher profits. So, 2, encourage healthy competition. Encourage people to try to improve on what they've done in the past. Number 3, have team members work together. Go out on calls together, work on projects together so they get to know each other. Number 4, speak highly of people on the team. One of the most important things you do as a manager is to praise your best people. Never, 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 never say anything negative about anybody in your company unless you want that person to hear it within 1 minute, which they will. If you say something negative, I've seen this happen. Someone says something negative to someone on the other side of the country, and somebody else hears it and picks up the phone and phones the person on the other side of the country within 5 minutes. Do you know somebody in the New York office said this about you in the Los Angeles office, 3,000 miles away? Anything you say that is negative is like a fart in an elevator. Everybody's going to smell it. You can stand there and smile and pretend you don't know what happened, but everybody who comes on the elevator is going to know what happened. So never say anything negative unless you want everybody to hear it, including the person you said it about. Negative talk by the boss, negative criticism that you say to other people is very, very harmful in a business. So bite your lip. Even though you're angry, just don't say anything. Just let it go. Number 5, discuss common objectives in the meetings. The best question is always, what are our goals? What are we trying to achieve? How will we measure success? Share team success stories. Keep telling stories about successful results that your team has gotten. And number 7, respond to suggestions from team members. Here's an interesting observation, is people are happy at work to the degree to which they feel they can express themselves to their boss. If I feel I can talk openly to my